So, you may have seen new content saying that it doesn't really matter how much time and attention you have during your repetitions. Sheet reps or strict reps doesn't really matter. For muscle growth, there's been big names debating this like Milo Wolf, Jeff Nippard, House of Hypertrophy. And from what I've read, time and attention and slow eccentrics doesn't really seem to affect muscle growth that much. Now, the problem with the studies that first supported the idea that time and attention is key to muscle growth is that they used two different groups, one using a quicker rep scheme and one using a slower rep scheme. This is basically what they did in all their studies, okay? And they used the same weight on both groups. Now, if you've actually tried slow reps, you can have just done it one time in the gym. You'll know that if you use, for example, a 20 kilo dumbbell for dumbbell press, if you're doing them slow with a slow eccentric and a slow concentric, or just a slow eccentric and then exploding up, you'll get much fewer reps with a slow tempo than a high tempo or a fast tempo. And this presents a few problems. This means that the groups training in slower rep tempos were in a much closer proximity to failure than the groups training with a faster rep tempo. In conclusion, the people doing slow reps didn't train like pussies, and the people doing fast reps did in these studies. So the fact that we saw much greater growth from slow reps is not really that weird, because training intensity is one of the most important factors for muscle growth, okay? A group of people training to an RP 8 or 10 will grow more muscle than a group of people training to RP 4, 6, somewhere around there. This is not rocket science. This should be pretty clear to everyone. If you instead take both of these repetition styles and push them close to failure, you'll see about the same growth. This is confirmed by higher quality studies. There's one famous study that House of Hypertrophy covered a few years ago, where a group of people trained one leg with a fast rep tempo and one leg with a slow rep tempo. But they adjusted the weight so they were both in close proximity to failure. This meant that they grew both legs about the same, okay? And we also got this brand new study that Jeff Nippard was actually involved in, where they compared sheet reps to strict reps. So sheet reps, they're pretty fast. They have a pretty fast tempo, okay? And strict reps will usually be slower. And here we apply a higher time and attention. Both of these gave the same results. I think that we can conclude that as long as you control the eccentric phase, it should last about as long as I last in bed, so somewhere between 1 to 6 seconds, around there. You'll see the same amount of growth from both rep styles. However, I strongly recommend you to go for the slower rep tempo. I do myself. This is because by slowing down the reps, I can use a much lower weight for the same growth stimuli. This means a lesser risk of injury in my joints, a lesser risk of muscle tears. I can also focus more on feeling the target muscle that I actually want to train. For example, in a set of hack squats, I can focus on feeling the quads because I want to use mostly my quads when doing hack squats instead of my glutes taking over. I can also go through the whole range of motion very safely. There's no problem with going to the end ranges of your joints when training, okay? This is totally fine. The thing that people do wrong is they load up a hell of a lot of weight and then they just let the weight drop to their end range of motion. For example, when doing dumbbell presses. It's not weird that you tear ligaments and start feeling pain in your joints when doing this. But if you control it and go all the way down, you're not janking on your joints causing tears, okay? And this is true for all exercises. You know, presses, squats, rows, all of that kind of stuff. And since switching to this kind of rep tempo, I felt much better in my joints than I did before. And I'm also a lot more mobile. I don't have to stretch anymore because, you know, I'm going to my end ranges of motion during my lifts. For example, I did hack squats yesterday. The first set, it felt kind of hard to get into the deepest position of the squat. And then after 2 sets, or no, just 1 set actually, I could get to the end range of motion without any problems at all. It's also much easier for you to standardize your range of motion and your rep speed. So it's easy for you to track your progressive overload, because if you're always using different rep tempos, you may get 2 reps more with the same weight the next week, but it's because you're doing your reps faster, not because you're actually getting stronger. So it's much easier to track as well. And since you're doing it slow, you can really focus on going through the same range of motion every rep on every workout. So you're not cheating there either. And there's more benefits to this. It's been shown in research that different parts of the range of motion grows different parts of the muscle. For example, a long stretch in your chest might grow the distal part more, and when you start to contract, the tension will kind of shift towards the inner part of your chest more. And since switching to slower rep tempos, I've still seen really good growth in all my body parts. I've grown significantly over the last 6-7 months. Okay, so you'll still grow a lot if you're using high intensity, eating right, and getting enough recovery. The message I really want you to take with you is that slower rep tempos may not directly impact muscle growth, but when your joints feel better, when you standardize your tempo, when you get a better mind-muscle connection, and when you're working through the whole range of motion, these things stack up, and you'll be more healthier in your joints and your muscles, and you'll be less prone to injury. And injuries is one of the worst setbacks for your fitness journey that you could possibly contract, okay? So staying healthy will, in the long run, result in more gains, because this means less days out of the gym because you tore a pec or you have knee pain or whatever it can be. So this is why a slower rep tempo and a full range of motion is, in my opinion, better in every way. Now that's everything for this video. Leave a comment about which rep tempo you usually use and if you're gonna change it after seeing this video. Check out my coaching service on Instagram and shoot me a message if you're interested in coaching. My handle is in the description below. Till next time, stay swole, stay humble.